today. Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Hello. I think we're all here. Hello and welcome to the Kino Corner. We talk about the very best of movies, news, and trailers from a certain point of view. 2 weeks in a row. It's just gonna be me today. I had a guest lined up and a few other things, but life's getting in the way of people lately. I think it's a mix of spring break time, but also tax season, and also there's a lot of life events in certain people's lives. No problem. The show must go on. Oh, the topic of the day. This is the 50th episode of the Kino Corner, and I didn't even register the time until honestly when I was setting up for this. But as appropriate for those who know me, this is the Kino intro to Super Sentai. So what does that mean? I'll get to more detail when it gets to the main topic at hand, but this isn't going to be a comprehensive season by season uh like which show should you watch. I had a plan on something like that, but this is more I'm going to talk about my experience with Super Sentai, how I got into it, what I generally think about it in the overarching, and why I firmly believe that there's at least one. They vary more than you realize, especially if you have this preconception of it being too similar to Power Rangers. But we'll go into more detail about that when we actually get to the main topic. As always, in the Kino Corner, we have a bit of preamble to go to in the means of news, trailers, recent videos, the like. So, without further ado, let's get started. So there has been a bit of movie news, not as much as well. Okay, most of it is just recurring, I should say, but a lot of there is some big bits of news, and as always on the Kino Corner, whenever a certain event happens, we like to get start our event there because we like to you jokey. So for those who know, very recently we lost the man, the myth, the legend, Chuck Norris. I'm going to be fully transparent. I did not watch Walker, Texas Ranger. The only things I have seen that at any capacity to properly gauge his acting ability were his cameos in Dodgeball and his minor role in that Expendables movie. That's pretty much it. But I did want to bring it up mostly because he did leave an impact. We all know the jokes. Everyone knows the Chuck Norris jokes. Like, oh, he doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down. He slammed a revolving door. They've been on repeat for the past like few days, and I'm gonna be honest. I kind of love it. There has been this general sense of positivity about Chuck Norris, and I think that's really important because and I don't want to get in a lot of detail about this about his personal beliefs as far as like personal, religious, political, and whatnot. There are people around that would not exactly agree, but that is not center stage. And the fact that almost nobody outside of the very, and I mean very small number of shitters online are even mentioning that, I think is a great thing. I think we need more of that. Like Chuck Norris has passed. He made a lot of people happy. Let's remember that. So all of these jokes, all these like Chuck Norris jokes, and some new ones about like one of my personal favorites is Chuck Norris didn't die. He just started New Game Plus. Like it, there's this air of positivity and respect and just reverence to the legacy of Chuck Norris. No one believes these things are actually true. We all know they're not. But Chuck Norris leaned into the jokes himself. And I think that speaks volumes more about the kind of man he was in this world of pop culture than anything else. So even though I have very limited interaction with him as an actor, and by the way, he that those few roles were fun. He did fine. It wasn't an awful actor. I saw him at the end of his career when he was older and more tired, so I don't have an accurate gauge. But eh, he has earned his place of respect in the eyes of the world. So I'd like to give him a proper moment of silence on the Kino Corner. Rest in peace, Chuck Norris. Your legacy will live on. But in order to alleviate from that, again, I don't want to. This is why it's difficult. I like to put those types of bits at the beginning because things are going to get more upbeat, and there's no real place to put it otherwise. So I don't want to pivot too much and just seem like. Oh, but the next bit of news, I won't go into detail about everyone that won, but of course the Oscars happened recently, the 98th Academy Awards. 2 years from now, it's going to be a whole big thing, but we'll get. But we had some winners, we had some upsets, we had some that are very interesting. I didn't. Okay, there's a lot of movies that I did not see. Like One Battle After Another, won Best Picture. I did not see it. I've only heard good things. The actually One Battle After Another won a lot of awards. Best Supporting Actress went someone from Weapons. It's like Sinners, One Battle After Another were the big winners in terms of movies. But there is one more that I think is more notable, and we talked about it recently when it was added to the Criterion Collection. K-pop Demon Hunters won Best Animated Feature over Zootopia 2. That is fascinating. As someone who has seen both, I don't necessarily disagree, but either one could have won and I would have been happy. They're very close in quality, at least to me. Uh, I think, but, and I know there's this whole talk about how legitimate the Oscars really is. There's a lot of just background studio bullshit, and that's why not a lot of people watch the Oscars now. This isn't about like what the people think are the best movies. This isn't about like uh, a pop culture influence. It's about like what the studios think. That's what it's always been. That's why there's like an Oscar push, those kind of movies. But K-pop Demon Hunters beating out Disney over movies that are generally close in quality is notable because the only thing that I think K-pop Demon Hunters truly had over Zootopia 2 was pop culture impact. And that's not something that is usually a factor. Because let's face it, if it was a factor, more Marvel movies would be winning. I'm sorry, you may disagree with that. It's just true. So I don't think the Oscars is just like the Oscars is back. Everything is more legitimate now. It's nothing that serious, but uh, K-pop Demon Hunters winning Best Animated Feature and Golden, a song from K-pop winning Best Original Song. Really, yeah, really goes a long way towards like I guess starting the process of legitimizing the Oscars again, making it take it more seriously, making these pop culture, and actually this is like a Netflix original one. And this is a big deal. Like the more you think about it, the more you realize just amidst everything, K-pop Demon Hunters won more than Avatar Fire and Ash. That's crazy. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein won Best Makeup, Best Costume Design, and Best Production Design. Well deserved, might I add. But these two movies that just came out from Netflix, they didn't sweep, but they won significant awards. And other movies that were so used to performing well, like Avatar: Fire and Ash, didn't necessarily. And also, we have a horror movie. Like I said, Weapons got Amy Madigan from Weapons got Best Supporting Actress. Sinners is a straight up horror movie that seemed to get a lot. Again, them in One Battle After Another seem to be the winners this year. I don't see anybody disputing that. I haven't seen either. I want to see Sinners more than One Battle After Another, but we'll see. It it is just like if you want to see all the winners are posted, I would. It's just fascinating to see, and this is the Oscars isn't an event. Apparently, there's a lot of stuff that happened at the Oscars, but I finished my thought. Oscars isn't an event that we flock to for like commercials or just things that happen inside. We flock to for the awards, but they're trying to add some legitimacy to it. And apparently, during the Oscars, there was a lot of like little presentations of people saying stuff or talking about stuff, giving their own commentary. There was a lot of just towards things going on in the world and certain political figures, certain events that is going to cause long term backlash, but well, that's a later issue. It, I wouldn't say this is the most legitimate the Oscars has ever felt, but it's a step in the right direction, and the winners are genuinely surprising across the board. So it's fascinating to look at. Now next bit of news. Okay, this is news I am semi disconnected from. As in, I have never seen Firefly. There is a long list of sci-fi shows that I feel would be so perfect, like right up my alley, especially with how I'm going to talk about Super Sentai later. They're like feel so right up my alley that I'm just left wondering why have I never sat down and watched this? Firefly, Doctor Who, Battlestar Galactica. I think there's one based around Wizard of Oz. I think it's just called the Tin Man or something. It, yeah, you're right there. Right. Hello, BP. But yes, I have never watched Firefly, but I am consciously aware of the impact Firefly had. Like I wouldn't say it's like the without it the landscape would be different. I don't know, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that the impact it's had on its fans is up there on the level as Star Trek. It's just Star Trek fans are more numerous and thus more rabid. But if you finally able to catch the stream, you're supposed to be part of it, BP. But no, I'm kidding, man. You do, but 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 we've been apparently people are trying to get a Firefly adaptation for years now, but people I'm gonna be honest, people are older and they can't do certain things that they do. So the animation with the same cast seemingly is the next best thing. Who knows how good this is gonna be? If the entire cast is signed on, considering the reasons it didn't go through before, I think that's a good sign. This will at least be decent. But time will tell. Will I watch Firefly and lead up to this? Maybe if it's available to me. I don't know. It seems like an interesting show. But again, this is more about I recognize the cultural impact of this coming back. Like this is huge. Like there's always a question about shows whether or not they should come back, whether or not you should get a second season. Like I think King of the Hill did a fine like we got a new season of King of the Hill. I think that was fine because after like a decade or two, there a lot of people were like, I wonder what the Hills are up to. I wonder what Bobby's like all grown up. Like there was enough time in between there, but there's a lot of shows in the era that we grew up, like 80s, 90s, early 2000s, that like were canceled or never got a proper ending. That maybe another season to either wrap things up or just to continue this story, just to give fans a little bit of satisfaction is warranted. Firefly, from what I could tell, is one of those shows. So I'm happy for the people who are excited for this. I may check out Firefly in the near future. Uh, we again, I'm got a few things looking into, but it, we'll definitely see. Now, last piece of news. This is related to Firefly in the realm of reboots. Darkwing Duck. This has been in the big what if for since 2 years now, about 2 years now. But recent, like Seth Rogen is doing this reboot. We have recently got soft confirmation from the voice actor that it is still happening. We don't have a release date. We don't have anything really more than that, other than yeah, we're still working on it. It's still cooking. This could be a nothing burger, but there's a new marketing method in Hollywood right now that I think they've latched onto. For it to just suddenly come out, suddenly, air quotes if you can't see, after so long, that tells me that I don't think it's going to come out soon. Like, I don't think it's going to be like, oh, coming out in May. No, it's nothing that serious. But it does tell me that there is production. I would not be surprised if they dropped it 2 years ago and picked it back up because like suddenly the crew they want to work on it, they do DuckTales, maybe there's something there. So I wouldn't be surprised if when we get an official release date, this is like winter or fall. I would not be surprised. I think the most likely is maybe this like exactly a year from now. We'll see, but it's happening. Will it be funny? Look, the DuckTales reboot is absolutely awesome, and that's going to be the standard it's going to be held to. We all know it. But yeah. Now, next, we're going to talk about a few trailers that came out. A little bit of trailers here. The first trailer is more of a teaser. It's kind of why I wanted to talk about it first. I was tossing between putting in the news or the trailer department. There technically is a trailer, but it doesn't show anything new outside of confirming certain characters are returning. It just shows the silhouettes of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, and Amy. Uh, just and then it's a Sonic 4 logo. It's now public knowledge, but Amy is going to be in Sonic 4. Amy Rose. She was in the after credits of Sonic 3. By the way, Sonic 3. I liked it. I didn't like it as much as 2, but it's damn close. But that's just my personal opinion. Most people seem to like it more. That's fine. Sonic 4, I am very hyped for. We know from the revealed posters that Amy's going to be in there. There seems to be a plot with Metal Sonic. Actually, Metal Sonic, little silhouette of him was in, yeah, it was in the teaser. So yeah, it's also very likely we'll be getting other characters like Big the Cat and Cream and maybe even like Rouge or something. Do you think Sonic 4 would follow Sonic CD? I don't know enough about Sonic lore to gauge that. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I'm I'm flying blind into all of these movies. You have played through the Sonic games. My knowledge of Sonic is Sonic Run Round, Crystals Go Burr. Everything I know from Sonic, I gain through osmosis, or I get from you, Griffin. If I'm being honest. Finally, it's on the Hedgehog 4 that won't be rendered non-canon. He was dealing with Metal Sonic travel. If Sonic CD was dealing with that, it could be that. I don't know. I don't know. I narratively speaking, it's possible because we also got confirmation that Jim Carrey will be returning. Yeah, this is just the cycle we're going through with these movies. I swear. Like Jim Carrey's like, "Don't worry, guys, this is my last movie," and then the guys are like, we need you to come back as Dr. Rayman. All right, fine. He's done this like at this point. We're expecting it. like at this point we're just expecting it. But yeah, no, Jim Carrey will be back. That that wasn't in the trailer, that came out with some news shortly after that he was like it's like almost 100% confirmed. I say almost because the report, if I want to be technical about this and precise with this, he's technically signing the contract to be in the movie. So it's last I checked, the deal was like, oh yeah, no, he's signing everything to make the appearance, film this, whatever. So he technically hasn't confirmed air quotes, but it's like you're in line at the DMV to get a driver's license and you haven't technically gotten your license yet. If you already had everything, you're just waiting in line to get it. You've gotten your license. He's in the movie. Like, unless something drastic happens between now and then, he's in the movie. Like, but yeah, but we'll see. Um, Now the next few trailers I want to talk about. There's two I know everyone knows about. I have my thoughts on them. This is a second trailer for one that was actually not several months ago. We talked about the Ghost X Dickman goes to the DMV short later, but Sekiro No Defeat. I have never played the Sekiro games. I know, but I know they made it big, and there's been an anime teased a while ago. We got a full trailer for what it's going to look like. I have to talk about this because oh my gosh, it is so stylized and just it's so pretty looking. I don't know how they can put more emphasis on that. They use this style, and this picture kind of encapsulates that, where it's like every hard line about a character's outline is like this scraggly pencil drawn brushstroke. It's hard to describe, and then when they start moving, it's like everything is impact frames. It's it it's hard to, it sounds like it'd be a mess, and at first you think, oh, this is gonna look horrible, but it just it has this very unique style, and I think that's hard to do with modern anime, is to get something that has a unique style. And this really caught my eye because I could think of things that are similar, but nothing that's just like, oh yeah, no, this is its own thing. I I also, hey, I could be so not well versed in just anime as a whole. I'm a basic bitch, but the style used in this is so pretty. This is also a Japanese trailer, so when you go into it, you're gonna have to subtitles. I don't think this is releasing on Netflix. I don't think, or I think it's going to be in theaters. I don't know. This could be like that last Lupin movie where it might get like a limited run somewhere, but I I don't know the release, but it is happening, and it just it, as a non Sekiro fan, I could say that this trailer looks gorgeous, and I would sit down and watch this if only for the visuals. Like that is my honest feeling as a non Sekiro fan. If y'all like, I don't. I know it feels like I'm going through things quickly. I kind of am because there's lots of stuff I want to talk about later. Oh yeah, but for this trailer in particular, there's not a lot that I really can say. Excuse me. Not a lot I really can say because again, I lack the knowledge. I can only react to what the trailer gives me. I I don't have the context of how accurate everything is to the game. But if you do, and if it looks good, let me know for sure. If like, but yeah. Now there's two more big trailers that happened recently that I know everyone has seen. So first, I love this picture. Dune 3. All right. Before I get into my thoughts on each of these trailers, there is one piece of relevant news I feel is important. Currently, Dune 3 and Avengers Doomsday opened the same weekend. Avengers Doomsday moved the release date to do that. So they're basically in a gridlock of who's going to dominate the box office. I know some people are like, oh, yeah, I want Dune to win, death to the MCU. Here's the thing, I want to see both movies. When I look at this realistically, when I look at how the general audience is going to react, and especially after this weekend, I think that Doomsday is going to win. And it would be in Dune's best interest to move the release date up like a week or two. Now, part of the reason I'll take is going to win, I'm going to get into more detail when I talk about the next movie. But Dune is not doing themselves any favors with this trailer. It's not a bad trailer. It's not. Look, it looks good. It looks like the next part of the story. All the acting looks great. The effects look wonderful. Like I do want to see the conclusion. I want to see like the Atreides line. I want to see all these wonderful set pieces. I want to see this movie. I really like part one. I really like part two. I want to see this. However, think about this from a general audience perspective. If like, and I should think I'm even gonna throw him a bone here. I don't even though I don't think everyone did. Let's assume you saw part one, you saw part two. Part two was an action heavy movie. Really think about that. Like it may not think at first there was a lot of scenes and there was all the memes about oh Lisa Nagai. There was all that stuff. But when you think of all the scenes of war against the city, like the battle, this it was an action heavy scene. The choreography in part two was great. So the scenes they show off in the trailer of this one to follow, like, yeah, we're gonna go for this action heavy movie, and we're now gonna go to war. So the scenes they show off, all right, time to have all these people fight like a row of like space samurai, and the space samurai are just gonna stand still. We kill them. Narratively speaking, I know why that is Paul Atreides, but like, it feels like if you don't know the book, which is going to be a lot of people are going to see this trailer and just go, "Oh well, if we're just going to watch them win, I kind of know." So yeah, I might see it. It's like it they framed the trailer in a way. I don't know if it's true or not, but they framed yeah, because of how they showed the action and how little they showed in the trailer. It frames it as if like everyone now knows the outcome. It like we all know and just prepare to watch the conclusion. And plus, when I rewatched it, it just didn't because there's not a lot of action in the trailer because they're showing just very quiet shots with heavy music and everyone is doing the same motion where they look to the left, look up to the sky, look at my silhouette. They're not do it's a teaser. This is not a full trailer. This is a teaser. And so now Dune isn't competing with Doomsday anymore. I still want to see this movie, but this trailer lets a lot to be desired. And I think Disney was banking on that because right after this trailer dropped, the trailer for Brand New Day dropped. And that's when it hit me. That's why this didn't get a Super Bowl trailer. Disney is acutely aware of when Dune 3 was going to drop their trailer. They wanted Marvel as a whole to be in the minds of people. So people were like, oh, yeah, we're seeing Dune 3. But Spider Man, they're banking on the quality of Spider Man Brand New Day to lead into Doomsday to some degree to get people excited for that. So think about it from your perspective. Think about it from a general audience perspective. You go see Brand New Day, they tease Doomsday, and then after like this go after like come August, basically the entire fall, like August, September through the entire fall, it's now just marketing time for Doomsday. The entire latter half of this year, I would say, as soon as tax season ends, Marvel season begins. Like I know we're tired of Marvel movies, but I think that's the case this year. Like I think they basically held off for a bit to just constant flow control the marketing in these spurts to just completely overshadow Dune. And it doesn't help that the trailer for Brand New Day looks awesome. Like I've been talking about it a lot lately. What makes a good trailer is like it's you show enough to get people intrigued, but actually show something, but don't show too much. There's a fine line. I don't think the Dune 3 trailer shows enough to get people to be intrigued. Really, it's just like I just look at that trailer and go, I guess stuff happens. The Brand New Day trailer, I'm just like, oh shit. So wait, Spider-Man's mutating? Whoa. Holy shit, Punisher. It's like there's a lot of things happening in the background, and now I'm just wondering, I wonder how all that connects. This trailer does a great job at building intrigue than Dune 3's trailer. And that feels wrong, but it's true. So I think the Dune 3 trailer is just going to be overshadowed and combating with this, and then if this does well, like if I think Disney is betting on the success of this. If Spider-Man Brand New Day does well and they confirm Tom Holland's going to be back in Doomsday, like that is going to be just a constant marketing hype, and it's hmm, Nintendo, like not Nintendo, Disney. I think of Disney is they're not stupid. They're greedy. They've been doing a lot of wrong moves lately with the live actions, and they may not fully grasp, but they're not fully grasp like what everything that the audiences want, but they're not dumb. And even though it takes a while, sometimes they do occasionally learn from their mistakes. So I think they sacrificed a Super Bowl spot to put more money into advertising and production for Doomsday. So when Spider Man swings in and people will go see that and they're excited, they could prime them for more Doomsday teasers. That's what I think is happening, and I don't think and Dune people who made Dune 3, I think they're just banking on it being a good movie and that being enough. I wish it were. I wish it were. Yeah, and here's my prediction. I think I think Dune 3 is going to have a higher rating than Doomsday on IMDb. I truly believe that. I would like when it comes to like end of the year, like December 25th, after both movies have had like a week or two in the box office. I am would not be surprised in the slightest if like Dune 3 is like great conclusion, 9 out of 10, and Doomsday is like, oh, fun movie, pretty good, 8.5. I would not be surprised. But and more people are going to go see Doomsday because they're playing more to the general audience. Not everyone is an elitist, like, gotta go see this kind of guy. Yeah. And we have to, sorry about that rant. Both of these trailers really got me thinking about what's going on with the trailers. But as far as the Spider Man trailer itself, it looks good. I really cannot wait for Spider Man Brand New Day. I, I I love seeing Tom Holland. I love seeing all the new designs, like the hand. I love seeing Frank Castle. I really hope they incorporate more of the defenders, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Now, one last thing for the main event: new and recent films. There's going to be, mm, I'm going to say three things I'm going to talk about. Two of them are going to be very, 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 very brief. First, a show I would not always recommend. It released on YouTube by Glitch Studios, Amazing Digital Circus. They released episode 8. Their finale is coming out June 19th. When Like I do plan to talk about it more. I will not go into spoilers, but I've watched episode 8. All I will simply say, watch the Amazing Digital Circus. I There's creators on YouTube making better shows. Spider-Man Noir, yeah. Fernie, you're right. There's creators on YouTube making better shows than anyone like in Hollywood or doing cable, all that stuff right now, and it's insane. More people need to watch them from like Glitch Studios or all these other actual plays and whatnot. It's so much more entertaining. There's so much more effort that goes into some of these, and so much better writing. Oh my god! I want to gush about it, but I'm going to spare y'all because this isn't going to be the Amazing Digital Circus episode. That's later, the but yeah, watch the season. I watched it. If you have, watch episode 8. Bada bing, bada boom. Now, the other quick one I want to talk about is since they've been adding them to Tubi, I've been rewatching some shows. I've binged the entirety, or rewatched the entirety, specials and movies included, of Edda and Nettie. And I have more to say about that show than I thought I would. I reminded myself that it is by far my favorite Cartoon Network show. The the internet gods are trying to get me to stop talking about it, but I will not be silenced. Anywho, One Piece live action season 2. I will not be silenced on this. I'm I am a huge One Piece fan. I've grown up with it since fucking 90s. God. It is a show that uh, I'm not going to gush about One Piece. I want to talk strictly about the live action. I went in, I watched season 1. I didn't think it was perfect. I liked it for what it was trying to accomplish. I think it was a better version of a live action anime. It had several flaws I wish were different. Everything does, but I was happy with season 1. Like when I look back on it, I'm not going to gush about like, oh, season 1's the best thing ever. No, it's good. It's the best anime live action adaptation, but that bar is so low. Season 2 is significantly better than season 1, and I'm not just saying that a bias. I really am thinking about it, and it is an upgrade. There's the one of the big like the two biggest problems that me and a lot of people have with season 1. One is the pacing of season 1. I think that's the biggest thing that bothers me. And the pacing of season 2, it flows so much more naturally. Like, yes, stuff is cut out. A lot of stuff's cut out. Some more scenes are added for context, but it never felt like it was without reason. One Piece season 2, it drastically improves the writing, but the other thing is the things it cuts out or adds in feel more warranted. It feels like you're missing less of the story than you would otherwise, if that makes sense. Like, uh, I don't want to spoil too much. I know everything's gonna going through all the social media and everything. I'm trying to approach this in a way where I don't give the big spoilers away. But season 1, I don't think it's. I'll talk about some of the spoilers for season 1. There are certain characters cut out from season 1. The one that bugged me the most is Hachi, the octopus dude. Only because I'm fully caught up with One Piece, I know how relevant he is later in the story. Um, so there's a few things they cut out, a few things they changed to condense the story. Season 2, however, cuts out far less, and some of the stuff they add, some of the scenes, it seems in small ways they're doing course correction. It's hard to explain without going into spoilers, but no, it's there's a little bit of course correction there, but also the oh my gosh, the music. There's a song in the was it Little Garden section called Pray to the Sun that has been on my playlist ever since I saw it. It is this this is what happens when you let like the actor, director, producers, and everyone who knows what they're doing, who knows how to like what the fans actually want. Because it, I keep hearing production stories like McKenyu, the person who played Zorro, basically had to convince Netflix, like, no, no, let's actually hire 100 guys for the Whiskey Peak 100 bounty hunter bit. So yes, there's 100 bounty hunters. Yes, that whole scene is there. It is epic, and they add some more things to the reverse mount with Laboon is my favorite. There's a change with Laboon. For those who know, they know, but I don't know if it's just sacrilegious. The change they did with like Luffy and Laboon in the live action, I like more than the manga. Like I think it fits Luffy's character more, especially like with the benefit of hindsight. And I think that's the biggest thing, like why season two works so well, is you now have the hindsight of the entire series, plus you now have the hindsight of the first season of live action to know what worked and what didn't. So they're able to use all of that knowledge to create something. It makes me very hopeful for season three. Reportedly, season three has already been in filming and production, and season three is just going to be Alabasta. Season two ends on Drum Island. Season three will just be Alabasta. As for when the live action ends, McKenyu did say in an interview that there is he kind of dropped the coy vague line that Oda Netflix execs have talked, and there is a spot in the that they have an idea of where they want the live action to end. That tells me and most fans that this isn't going to be a forever thing. Like some fans are just like, oh, I hope they get to Wano. They're not getting to Wano. Like the live action is meant to stop somewhere, and my best guess, the pessimistic option is they're going to stop at season three. Considering what they kind of did in season two, yes, I agree, Fernie. I think the most likely is Enislavi. The second most likely is the war at Marineford, but if they do that, I am very shaky on that. I think I'm going to assume either Alabaster and Islabi until someone says otherwise. Right, I agree with it's a stretch. Like going into this, I already had the opinion that like they can absolutely cover Alabasta with no issue, but if they have the funding and the resources and the creativity, they could pull off an Islabi. And season two showed they have the creativity if they have the proper time and resources. So I hope Netflix sees that as much as I want to see it too. Like I, that's but yeah, we'll see. Like for now, I can just happily say that season two is better than season one by a noticeable margin. I am excited for season three. Anaki Godoy is still just there is nobody else who can do live action Luffy. Anaki is so charming. Oh, he's so happy. Um, but now, but I won't dish out tales. For now, it is time for technical issues aside. Now that all that seems to be squared away. Sanji. Oh yeah. Oh, you're gonna. If you haven't watched it yet, he gets his moments in season two. Oh yeah, yeah. Before I move on, uh, Usopp and Sanji for what everything they didn't get in season one, they get in season two. Oh my god, especially Usopp. Oh my god, that actor. Oh, they get their moments. They all do. I love it. Anyway, but yeah, back to the main event. Kino intro to Super Sentai. Now, what is what are we going to talk about today? So, here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to sit here and give you a comprehensive step-by-step guide and just like teaching a class here and just like Super Sentai is the live action tokusatsu. if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you at least have the rudimentary understanding of what Power Rangers is. I'm not going to use technical terms. I'm not going to go into heavy detail. I'm going to talk about basics. I'm going to talk about just rudimentary stuff, and I'm going to talk about what my experience with the whole franchise, what got me into it, and my what I noticed is different in Super Sentai compared to Power Rangers, what most people will know, and why I still firmly believe there is some general seasons of Super Sentai most people can enjoy. There's I think there's a season for everybody because there's 50 years of seasons, like, and they all vary. Oh my god, like there's some I don't like. Full disclosure, but yeah, pull up a. I have a little Google Doc, y'all. Pull that up. There we go. So what are we looking at? 49 seasons over 50 years. Super Sentai, like I said, won't go into super detail, but it is the Japanese equivalent of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It is where Power Rangers drew its inspiration and footage. All the memes you see about the old teenagers with attitude, grown-ups in spandex, fighting over suit monster, it came from this. The superhero boom and all of that good. These shows started as far back as 75, and they've been popular for a while. I've always been acutely aware of them, but Power Rangers is where I got my start, like most people here in the States. Hmm. Excuse me. I was a very much a Power Rangers kid, bought all the toys, watched all the seasons. I kept up with it as long as I could. I think I dipped out for a while, but I think around it was somewhere between Wild Force and Dino Thunder. I know I watched Dino Thunder, but I didn't watch it as intently as others. That's around the time I was worried about other things in life. Yes, mostly like moving and getting a job and starting high school. But for a few years, I kind of like popped away from Power Rangers for a bit, but I loved it. It took over 10 years of my childhood. It was very much my childhood show. And then college rolls around. I met a few friends. I don't keep in much contact anymore. Not important. But they introduced me to Super Sentai and another show called Kamen Rider that I won't go into super detail on. That's a whole other can of worms. But what's important is they show me different sites, they show me different seasons, best place to start. And so 2012 is about when I started. Well, end of 2011, start of 2012 is the very first Sentai season I watched in its entirety was one that it sounds like a weird one if you know, but Kaizoku Sentai Go Kaiger. In the States, this was Megaforce. Eh. Again, I don't want to make myself mad, but that is, to me, this is a catch all anyone can enjoy show. This is the 35th anniversary of Super Sentai. It was an anniversary season. Practically every episode was a callback to one of the previous 35 or previous 34, I should say, using the unique gimmick of the show. And they did a pretty good job, kind of showing off old actors. Like it was a big. The whole season was a celebration, but it also established some of the best characters in all of just Super Sentai lore, with characters like Captain Marvelous. And I was enamored. I was enamored with just how different it was in the Power Rangers I was used to. The I would say the first difference I noticed is it's not afraid to curse. It is not afraid to curse in any capacity. Like you will see the character go, "Oh, what the hell?" every once in a while. They're not going to be dropping f bombs and just screaming Bloody Mary as they stab a monster while they bleed out. It's nothing that graphic, but they're not opposed to oh shit every once in a while. Like that kind of triggered me in, but also Power Rangers did this a bit later in its lifetime, uh, but not to this degree. Super Sentai is more adult. And I know that sounds weird to say, but I think this has to do more with the difference of Japanese programming and American programming, because certain things like censorship and bad words aren't as like policed. Yeah, yeah, like certain things aren't more policed at all. So yeah, like I'm gonna be honest, one of my favorite Sentai seasons just straight up starts with like people that are dead, and like the stakes is, hey, if we don't save these people, they are going to die forever. They're not just trapped somewhere and just like going, help me, Power Rangers. No, they're dying. Like they take it up that far. It's not as like I think it's just the reason. Like we're drawn to anime because of that. Like as kids we have all these shows that we grew up on, like I Love It and Nettie and things like Static Shock. But as we get more mature, there's not really anything for that bracket in the states. It's either you're a kid show or you're fucking Law and Order. That's kind of what we grew up with. It's and then anime kind of filled in that gap. That's why most people nowadays like anime. Like it's like a kid show, but they say fuck. It's that's I don't know how else to convey that. but but Super Sentai, it'll take that concept to very interesting levels. I would say it's notable to compare it to Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is also a show I consider very mature, and it's not because they do a lot of excess violence or swear all the time. It's no, it's the subject matter and the lessons they teach or really make kids think. They really like present like the very philosophical questions in kids' mind. It's still a kid show. In Avatar, you're still gonna have the cabbage guy. You're still gonna have like cactus juice. It'll quench you. You're still gonna have these just dorky kid moments. But everyone who's watched Avatar: The Last Airbender knows there's just as many moments of just profound insight from Uncle Iroh or deep anguish from Zuko. Super Sentai is the same way. Yes, there's a lot of moments where just they're throwing a football that blows up and destroys a monster, but when a garbage truck drives off, if you know, you know. But then a few episodes later, there's like an existential crisis about whether or not they're good enough for their family. Like Super Sentai, if Power Rangers had that edge and it wasn't afraid to touch on these more serious topics, it is still a kid show. I don't want to overshadow that. I don't want to create the idea that Super Sentai is just some grand like adult thing. It's not. You can see any one clip from a Super Sentai series and remind yourself it's a kid's show. But yeah, backward writers have mature themes and wrote it well. Yes, I. But in the most general sense, yes, it is a more mature version of Power Rangers. But when you go in, remember it's still a kid show. When I watched these, the catch-all term I had, like, or the catch-all I had in my head to remember the quality of shows and what to expect. I think that this line has been blurred since, but for the longest time, and I do think for about like 10, 15 years this is true, is that Super Sentai is for kids and like young middle schoolers, and Common Rider would be for like high schoolers. I think they've kind of blurred both since, so it's for like anyone ages 8 to 18, but like and I don't think that's it's Super Sentai's gotten more serious. Kamen Rider's gotten a little more goofy. Sometimes they've kind of reverting back now. They don't have to. That's again, Kamen Rider's a whole other. but yeah, but yeah. Since I kind of learned that, since I'd latched onto that when I watched Go Kaiser, I of course tried to watch as many as I could. I kept up with so many seasons of Super Sentai. Like I watched a whole bunch before, I watched a whole bunch after. I have my favorites. My three favorites right now, and I know this is gonna be like a weird three, but I'm gonna do my top five because it gives a more varied, like a better varied just what my top five are. Uh, Go Go Five, Live Man, and the top three, which are always in a fighting contestant because I view them so freaking close to each other. Uh, it'd be no. I'm taking Go Go Five off. This is complicated. See, that's the problem. This is like I know I'm like losing credibility here, but again, there's like 49 seasons because I'm like going through. I have a list right here of like which one is what, like which year they were released. A full list in front of me. Uh, Go Go Five is my number six, underrated as fuck. But Kyoryuger is my number four. Kyoryuger, also underrated. I do like it just a smidgen more. My top three though are Tokyuger, Go Busters, and Go Kaiger. All for different reasons. Like Tokyuger, I think is honestly, if you want to be surprised by how mature a series gets and just thinks it looks stupid, watch Tokyuger. That is a series even I, as a Super Sentai fan, after a few years of watching, was just like, okay, this looks a bit goofy. This looks a bit silly. And then I like trains. But yeah, after about a few episodes of Tokyuger, I was just like, oh my god, they're actually gonna die. Holy shit. Oh my god, they're fighting actual Nazis in the Shadow Realm. Like I like I, Tokuger gets like but like these are actually, but I'm like jumbling through my own mind palace to go through everything to properly pitch this to y'all. I guess to go through them one by one. Live Man is my favorite of the older, and I'll go into more detail about that in a second. But there's been different eras of Super Sentai. There is a scene in Live Man in particular that I really like took the whole Super Sentai as more mature to a head. It was even more mature in the 70s. Anyone who's watched old 70s Godzilla movies knows there was less censor back then and they were not afraid to show blood. And one of my favorite scenes in Live Man is actually one of the last scenes in the show when I'm going to call him the Red Ranger, but because there's not really a catch-all term because each one is different. It's like Gokai Red or or like in Zoo Ranger, it's Red Tyranno. There's no catch-all, so I'm just gonna say Red Ranger. But when the Red Ranger was fighting basically the lead general, not the big bad, like his number one, his number two, basically. And like based on the line he delivers, I'm never gonna forget this. He basically just fighting on a cliff and there's doing their normal banter. And he just goes, "You will watch peace reign over this earth from hell," and just bum rushes this guy, cuts off, disarms him, and just fucking doom kicks him off the fucking cliff. I'm just like, if I was a 6 year old watching this, like, like that's a 300 moment. It was a 300 moment. Like, uh, now I mentioned that there's different eras. So to go into why I kind of figured that there is an era of Sentai, or at least kind of locked in what you think of it. The Showa era is where everything started. This is like from the 70s. Like 70s and 80s is the Showa era. Everything from the first season got Go Ranger to one called Turbo Ranger. Everything there is the Showa. Like if you want to know what the different eras are, brief explanation. It literally only has to do with the Emperor of Japan. and like the era of their rule. That's literally it. There's not like eras of fiction and eras of media in Japan. Things follow suits, but that's about it. We use them as kind of just to help delineate for our own purposes. So everything in the Showa era did have its own flair and feel to it, but they lean more towards the I would say campy action and comedy more so than anything. They were less afraid to show like a shirtless bodybuilder, but also just have random explosions. Like if you think like old cheesy Power Rangers, like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the tone it had and everything kind of carried over is very much the the leftovers of that era. Crank that shit to 11. So like if you want the cheesy stuff, show up. Like my personal recommendation for one is Live Man. It takes itself wonderfully seriously, and and also when I'm just starting and it's interesting. It's not bad, but like it is something. Dengeki Sentai Changeman. I know these words, these Japanese words, don't mean much to people. I'm trying to introduce this to y'all, but yeah, like that. In fact, here, let's do this little pivot. There is a Sentai for everybody. When I say that, one of the first things that comes to mind is the general theme every season has. Like, just as you'll have one season where the theme is animals and preservation of the earth, there is a Sentai themed literally on traffic safety. There's a reason Power Rangers Turbo was goofy as all hell. That's because Car Ranger, the Gekiso Sentai Car Ranger, what it's based off of, was meant to be a parody Sentai. It was an anniversary season of Sentai at the time, or rather, like the last one. And well, not okay. Wasn't a big anniversary, but it no, it was. I think it was like the 15th or stuff. I can't remember. But no, hold on, I have the time pulled up. I can verify. Oh yeah, it was. It was straight up an anniversary. It was the first Sentai after an anniversary. That's what it was. So they used it as kind of like a self-aware parody of a Sentai. So everything was kind of cranked up to 11, and just the silliness factor. I mean, their vehicles of choices are things like bikes and scooters. Like I don't know what else to say about that. But interestingly enough, shortly following that, even though that did okay and it's beloved in Japan still, they shifted right back over shortly after this. And the ones after Car Ranger, you had Mega Ranger, which is very much not a parody. And I think my bet on side tangent, my bet on why Turbo was taken seriously, I think, is more because of Mega Ranger. Because there is time after these shows air, and when we got him in the states, I am pretty sure that Haim Saban saw Mega Ranger and just like this. Oh God, we can't have a goofy serious lead into this. Or we need to do some rewrites. Come on. I there's only so many ways to justify that. I don't. But I think Mega Ranger, without going into too much detail again about individual series, I think the height of Super Sentai, like what we see it as, like how I'm describing it, how it's a bit mature when it had a solid footing, a grasp of what it was, would basically be everything between Mega Ranger all the way and we're going past Gokaiger. I do think there's good ones after that. I would say this goes all the way to one called Nin Ninja. I know that sounds like a slur. It's a ninja one. That whole era, I don't. There's not much missing. Starting a bit in Zyuohger and the one after Q Ranger, Those are technically in the Heisei era, but it started a trend that I consider Sentai's experimental era because that was around the time ratings were starting to dip and they wanted to try new things. And so, full disclosure, if you want non-traditional Sentai, if you want things that you'll never see in Power Rangers, or probably will never see in Power Rangers, the new stuff is what you would look at. Be forewarned. So, I do think in some ways they focus more on CGI and drama. So and budgets did go down for some seasons, especially some of the most recent ones. But they had to squeeze their pennies a little bit more. Like my this they gave us Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger, literally a cops and robbers, a thief Sentai versus a police Sentai. It's so stupid. It worked wonderfully. But no, but that one no, they took very seriously. I it's sandwiched in between yeah, cops and Robert. Yeah, there is a Sentai series with two teams actively fighting each other. Like and they had to get more creative with the giant monster fights. One thing that also became more prevalent around this time, but I think Kira Major is when it really got prevalent. Is they actively had Megazord fights and Ranger fights on screen at the same time. Like it would cut to the Rangers doing this, and it would cut to the Megazord fighting that, and there's a battle on two fronts because it would just make sense. It's just oh, well, they're being that monster. I'm gonna just all right, fine. Use the resources. Send the big one to destroy that city. We need him to do his work, and that distracted the Rangers because they had limited resources. It's one of those things that works if it makes sense. They start to apply a weird amount of logic to these shows. It's hard to describe, man. But each show does have a different theme, and some of it is there's repeating themes. There's more than one season with dinosaurs. There's more than one season with animals. Only one themed around insects, and that is bothering me for some reason because King Oger is freaking awesome. Well, you know what? I know why it's not based around insects because Kamen Rider. But yeah, yes, King Oger is a Knights of the Round Table where it's actually no, it's Game of Thrones Super Sentai where each house is represented by a guardian insect thing, and each one has its own Zord. It's nuts. I'm pretty sure people are like Game of Thrones is popular. We could do that too. Game of Thrones, but all the kings are Power Rangers. I'm using these terms interchangeably, but that's basically what. But right, that's what But everyone has this weird predisposition. I'm sure a lot of people have watched Power Rangers or have seen clips or know the jokes, and they are at least cognizantly aware of how these shows are, even if they haven't watched them, and that creates this assumption of what Super Sentai is. It's not. It is, but it's more than that. I guess is more accurate. There is still Monster of the Week shenanigans. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but what Super Sentai does that Power Rangers I think didn't do till much later, and I think a little too late because they screwed the pooch in so many other ways, is they mix the Monster of the Week stuff with consistent through line storytelling and honest, mature moments of character introspection. I remember more Super Sentai names than I do Power Rangers names outside of a few notable standouts. And that's not so much of a lack of quality on some of these characters. The Lightspeed Rescue gave us Carter, Mother Lovin' punch a monster in the face Grayson. But like you have Captain Marvelous, and Captain Marvelous is just straight up the Chuck Norris of Super Sentai. I'm sorry. Like, No, you know what? No, I wouldn't go that far. He's not the Chuck Norris of Super Sentai, but if you there's that whole meme of when you go to some when you look at someone and go, "Oh yeah, he's him," or whatever it is. Captain Marvelous is him. But like I know I'm like pseudo glazing individual seasons here, but that's just because I love them. Like over the years, I have watched a wide variety, and I'm still watching more. To me, that's the biggest beauty of it. Is even though Super Sentai has ended, even though Super Sentai, like will it might come back in a few years' time. There's a rumor that they're taking a 5 year hiatus since coming 2030. Nothing's confirmed. I'm not assuming anything. You shouldn't either. But even though it's gone for at least a while, there's enough here to keep me satiated. There is enough of a backlog being slowly and made more and more available for fans through Shout Factory and other means that there's just too much to watch. Heck, I know like of a few sites that still have means of like I don't want to endorse pirating. I but I do want to touch on one subject because the whole ultimate goal of this is to introduce Super Sentai and try to get at least somebody get people to watch it and get them interested in at least trying a season. So, but I want to address one thing, and that is the whole pirating aspect of this. For a time, when I was getting into Super Sentai, and I would say several years after that, it's when I thankfully downloaded most of my seasons. There were sharing sites that were legitimate. Some people say like, "Oh, you just torrent stuff." No, two in particular were to name drop them were Overtime and TV Nihon. I know there's a lot of bullshit and people didn't like about one or didn't like about the other. I don't care. The point is they were both had an air of legitimacy to them because yes, they used torrents. However, they did have donation things and they were very transparent about where the donations went because they showed receipts and both of them basically just like we're going to buy individual like DVDs. So like because remember like in the 90s that we had like episodes like DVDs of just like here's 3 episodes of Pokemon or some shit. Japan does shit like that all the time. So they would basically just download the scanlations, buy stuff, buy like any licensing rights they could to keep it as legitimate as they could. So yes, it was torrents, but they did everything they could to keep it legitimate because without the torrents, there wasn't a way to watch it in the States. Fan dubs are the reason that most people who are into Super Sentai now are into Super Sentai. So if you have to get a fan dub, I don't want to endorse piracy. VHS collections, man, yeah, I don't we don't endorse piracy here. Get acquire them as legitimately as you can. Shout Factory and other sources are and they're adding more and more. But like there was a but for some reason a few years ago, Toei decided as a blanket statement to just cease and desist every sharing site. That's why it's suddenly harder to get it, and you have to resort to Shout Factory and other means. I don't want to resort. I don't want to recommend piracy, but I don't necessarily 100% agree with how difficult they are making it. So, if you are, there are means still. I have access. I personally have access to a lot of the ones that aren't readily available, thanks to getting them while the fan dubs were present. I have a whole terabyte hard drive, but it's not necessarily true for everybody. Do what you can to support the shows. Before I go into more about like the details of why, that's my disclaimer. Be as legitimate as you can, but just keep your eyes peeled. There are other ways to get the shows, but I do not. But be as legitimate as you can. These shows deserve your support. I just wish Toei were not making it so difficult. That being said, I I do believe firmly there is a Sentai series that everyone can at least somewhat appreciate or respect. As for how to decide, there's there's a small number of series that I do think are they fall into this category of just they're just good that I think anybody can watch. One is Go Kaiger. I think Go Kaiger gives you a perfect grasp of how weird this kind of shows can be while also being serious, as well as it is an anniversary series, but the reason it's stuck with me one of my favorites, did it has done a wonderful job at introducing me as a know nothing to the general concept of everything that came before. Every episode. It's because of this that I realized like I do want to watch these episodes of Ginga Man. I do want to watch these episodes of Kaku Ranger. I do want to watch all this stuff for Sun and Vulcan. Like you don't have to know. It's just each episode was its own thing. So I think that in the most general, broad sense, Go Kaiger is a fantastic Sentai to start with. The as if we want to give if I want to give one from each era, as far as the older ones, uh, there's two that seem to be easily attainable, given that I can tell you are good. One is the one I mentioned earlier, Live Man, solid series, and the other is Flashman. I have not watched it. I'm watching it after Changeman, but it is I've only it's one of the sort of shows I've only heard good things. So that is an easily attainable one. It's hard to recommend one from the Showa era because anything made prior to Zyu Ranger, which is what became Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, is generally harder to get to. Like I think I have a lot of them, like Jetman, Five Man, Turbo Ranger, Live Man, Mask Man, and Change Man, but I don't have most of them. It's there's efforts being made, and like I said, do as legitimate as possible. But Showa, and from what and also it should be noted, everything I've seen in the Showa era or anything prior to the Mighty Morphin series, Z Ranger, it's super campy. It's super cheesy, and they it it looks like a show that was made in the 70s and 80s. I mean that in the nicest way possible. But we all know we're spoiled by effects now. Um, I I I think if you're an old dog like me, if you're 20s or 30s, I highly recommend starting with any series from the Heisei era. In fact, more accurately, I would start with anything between Zyu Ranger and the one I mentioned earlier, Ninja. And if you want to figure out which one appeals to you, go to their wiki, look at the layout of the team, look at the costumes, look at what the Zords look like. Do not look up spoilers. Just look at what the team looks like, look at what the Zords look like, look at what the bad guys look like. If at any combination of these you go, oh, these guys look cool, or this looks interesting, I have to know, watch it. That is the simplest and most pure way to enjoy it. Because most of these I wouldn't like. The only one I could just broad shoulder recommend to anybody is Go Kaiger. I think it just checks too many boxes. It is just a good introduction to the concept, the weirdness of Sentai. but without going so far as to just everything is a freaking promotion. And I suppose it's fair to touch on that next. Everyone knows the Power Rangers are selling toys. We know it. Super Sentai is no different, especially new seasons. So that's the other thing. If I would recommend anything from the Reiwa era, technically, I would do King Oger because it's awesome. All of the rest in the Reiwa era have a very similar flaw. Too many things. There's too many gadgets, too many power ups, too many plugs and knobs and bullshits that to deal with. Like I said, you're allowed to not like certain series of Super Sentai or some aspects of them. As much as I like King Oger, it bothers. It's hard to explain, but like Ryu's Soldier is when it is right before it got really bad. It's right on the edge, and there was a moment where they laid out. They basically had these swords, and there's like little dino heads at the hilt of the sword. They would plug in these Ryu souls, is what they call them, to activate power ups and abilities and blah 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 blah. And they laid out all the things they've plugged in, and there's like 30 of the freaking things, and you could tell this is just to sell toys and gotcha boxes of, oh, which power up you're gonna get. And I don't mind them trying to sell toys of megazords and stuff, but it's more transparently cash grabby in these more recent series, and it's almost becomes like narratively bogged down because of it. Like that isn't a flaw in my opinion of the most recent things. There's also, again, the new stuff is very experimental. They started trying new things. There was a season where the Pink Ranger was a guy and also was entirely CG, but that's not, and that's yeah. But we'll, that's neither here nor there. But actually, two of the characters are entirely CG. One was a cat, but yeah. If you want some level of familiarity and you want to keep up with like this thing, Heisei era. I do think it's the best era of Sentai. I'm a little biased. I know a lot of people really like the new stuff. I know a lot of people that really like the old stuff. Because the other thing is the old stuff's campy. I do think, campiness aside, it's a little more mature. Except when it's Kaku Ranger. I don't like Kaku Ranger. I'm sorry, but but it's like the initial plan for the day was to have a guest here, either like Dr. Jones or BP. Like I had a plan just to talk shop with BP. The other plan I had was to have someone on here that didn't know about Super Sentai and just kind of gauge their interests and see if I could find one to recommend to them. So I'm gonna play like a shorter version of that game with y'all. So Fernie, congratulations, Fernie. You've been volunteered. I see you in chat. We're gonna make it a thing. You've been voluntold. All right. If there was a theme of Megazords, or rather a theme of Zords that you'd more interested in seeing, and be as broad as you want. It has to be a cohesive theme. It'd be as broad. Like it could be some like spaceships, or it could be some like animals, or like yeah. Like, so Fernie, if you were to see, if you would want to see a typical kind of Zord or Mecha in Super Sentai, what would you want to see? I'm gonna see if I can find one to recommend to you, or at least like two or three to get you started. Science related or elements? Okay, okay, okay. Science related or elements? Okay. Now I can narrow that down very easily. Are you more faceted, or you're more interested, I should say, in seeing uh, a lot of CG? Do you want like to see a lot of practical effects, no matter how cheesy or cheap they look? Or do you want something competent kind of in the middle, a little bit of CG, a little bit of practical? Science or elements? Like I'm already like narrowing down a few in my head. You do like practical effects. All right, we're knocking out the Reiwa era, and I'm gonna say you're fine with CG, but I would say we're knocking out the Reiwa era. All right, I'm gonna knock it. You like practical effects. You're fine with CG, so you have a preference. Okay, this is gonna be a big one. This is gonna wipe out a lot. Are you okay? All I've seen is the '90s Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Oh, okay, so I'm gonna keep that in mind. So you want okay? That's actually good. That actually matches a question I was about to ask. As far as a baseline is concerned, do you want something that's a little more serious and maybe has a little better effects and slightly more CG than Power Rangers, or do you want less CG than Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? Because I'm using that as a line. That's like right in the middle of the range of stuff I'm looking at. I have a list in front of me. I, and I got neurotic with it. Like I even made a script in Excel to see like if the here is this, it's the Showa. If it's between this, it's Heisei. Leaning towards less, but I want good writing to go with it. Less, okay, okay. No. You want less CG than Mighty Morphin. So so I'm gonna leave Go Kaiser on the table. Like I do think it's good, but if you want to start fresh, considering what you've told me, you want to start something older. I would say your cutoff would be because one thing that should be noted is Super Sentai uses less CG than Power Rangers already in general. So you can kind of go a little further than Z Ranger, which is the adaptation of Mighty Morphin, and still get up to as much CG and a lot of practical effects. So your cutoff is a series called Go Go 5. Like that's I would say after Go Go 5 is when they really started using CG. There is CG in Go Go 5. There is CG in Ginga Man, not as much. So since you want now, you said you want science or elements based. Now this is gonna narrow it down because I now have I'm gonna put I have a few already that I have an idea. I'm gonna mark them out real quick. Not that, not that, not that. I'm that's yes, yes, yes. Okay. Would you believe I've already narrowed it down to five? Okay. I've already narrowed it down to five that I think you might be interested in. So with those five in mind, let's see here. I'm gonna see if I can get something specific about the show. See if we can. I want to narrow this down to three. I want to narrow this down to three for you. You see, you want science or elements. So, oh, I know. Do you want? Let's do. Actually, do you want individual Zords, or do you want a single mech? I know that sounds like a weird question, but there's a reason. There's a fascinating history of Super Sentai. You want a single mech. You don't want the individual Zords to combine. Okay. All right. All right. So then I have three for you. The one the one that matches your interest. So okay, the one that matches your interest the most. So there's only okay, the reason I asked that question, technically speaking, all Super Sentai uses some kind of combiner. Live Man was on the list as a recommendation for you. I'm putting that as an honorable mention because it was the very first Super Sentai that used individual Zords that could be piloted, that had their own functions, and then combined. If you want to see their first foray into that's a secondary suggestion. Everything before it's in this weird mix of, yes, there's individual vehicles, and yes, they use them to some degree, but it's basically just a mech. And for those, the two I would recommend that are actually more available, I believe, through Shout and other means, are Mask Man, so Hikari Sentai Mask Man, and Dengeki Sentai Change Man. Those both lean into the elemental side. Live and Choju Sentai Live Man is definitely more science. Now, if you want to see like what about 10 years of difference does between these, the the other two I have marked. Um, I have two more marked as maybes. One is as mentioned before. That's Go Kaiger. That is CG heavy, but that one's more of like a generic placeholder. Now you can see what they could do with CG. So keep that in the back of your mind. If you want something that's a little more than Power Rangers as far as effects, but still has a lot of practical effects, has its own combiners, and a story that it's a little okay. One more question because I have it down to two, and there is a difference between them. Do do you want more comedy or more high school drama? I know these sound like weird questions. Okay, go five. So yeah, the other one I recommend if you want to see 10 years after all those is QQ Sentai Go 5. It is all Sentai series have some air of comedy. Go and all of them are funny. Go 5 I think has more comedy, and they have some funny slaps at the audience themselves. I It's a very serious show, but it has instances of comedy that are just they're very 70s and 80s. I these shows were made in the 90s, but like, oh my god, it's so freaking sitcom-y. And it's glorious. So yeah. Live so yeah, like the five recommendations in the honorable mentions I'm gonna say are Kaiser Sentai Go Kaiser because it's a just a more it's just an all around if you want to see what the new stuff is. The other one is Live Man because it uses the combiners. Actually, no. The other honorable mention is Go 5. That's also a newer one, but it leads into more of your interest. And all of the mechs are just they're man made. They're scientific as hell. They're rescue vehicles and whatnot. I will message you later, Fernie. I will message you the names, and I'll see if I can include some just what each team looks like for you because I got your back. My ultimate goal with this is to get somebody to watch at least one season just to see if they like it. Like, I'm not here to change hearts and minds. I'm not here to just make a Super Sentai fan out of everyone. I'm just saying, like, hey, my goal is to say it's worth a shot. You might find something you like. Not every season is to your standards, but I think that with how varied they are, I mean, you have one that's cops and robbers. You had one that's all comedy about traffic safety. You have you have Live Man, which is, but like they all vary in tone and goal, and it also should be noted each season is 40 plus episodes. Like I got you covered, Fernie. But yeah, but just for everyone listening, uh, we have where is it? There it is. Kaizoku Sentai Go Kaicher, QQ Sentai Go Go 5, and your main three recommendations: Dengeki Sentai Changeman, Hikari Sentai Mask Man, and Choju Sentai Live Man. Like, I'd recommend looking at all of those, at least like a base level, and trying one of them. They seem to all three of those, like four of them match your interest, and Go Kaiser is like the only one that I would say is just a broad one off. Yeah, but so I got something to watch on my week off. Yeah, in fact, tell you what, watch the ones I recommended. If you like them and you want to try something new, that's when you watch Go Kaiser to see if you like the new stuff. And I won't overflow you with just how the real new stuff gets. I have my thoughts, but yeah, I'm happy with that. And yeah, if if you're watching this on if y'all are watching this on YouTube, what's your favorite Sentai season? Like I say what you like. Like y'all know my favorites. I tend to like the ones first in the '90s and early 2000s because that's around when I was born and I'm biased as hell. But I will always have a love for like Live Man and some of the older ones. But that brings us to the end of this wonderful, wonderful intro to Super Sentai. I will put a few things, links, and resources down below in addition to the playlist. I'm going to try and find a play in the playlist. I'm going to try to include a a collection of Super Sentai themes. That is one thing, Fernie. I will send you. Basically, if you want it, I will send you a compilation of all of the Super Sentai intros from beginning to end, like from 75 to now. It's like an hour long. I always have it on repeat. I could listen to a Super Sentai song, and know exactly which one it's about. And some of the songs are bangers, but that's just me. It's there. It'll be there, linked below, if available, and if you want it, I'll send it to you. I say if available because that is always a collection that has a habit of appearing and disappearing and reappearing and disappearing. So that's will asterisk on it being in down below. Yeah. So yeah, this was fun. Again, this is just me again this week, but I'm fine with that. I like to talk people's ear off about Super Sentai. That's I tried to avoid spoilers and tried to try not to overshadow with my own personal recommendations, my own personal biases. I didn't mention too much about Go Busters and how weird it gets and how much I adore that series. I didn't, but each series, some will catch you off guard. Like some are better than others. Yeah, like go in with tempered expectations. Try something new. And hey, if it turns out you like this and I just made a tokusatsu fan out of you and you've gone down this rabbit hole, good news. You're not going to run out of stuff to watch. But yeah, but without further ado, I think it's time we get to the next part of the evening, which is the almighty wheel. Yes, the wheel. Did you get to see the wheel, Fernie? And it happened. I think I can delve into this rabbit hole. Yeah. So, all right, a bunch of carryovers from the wheel. We have the life and times of Benoit Blanc. I'm going to talk about those three Knives Out movies. The Alien versus Predator tier list. I have a very specific plan on what I want to do with this, and that's going to be there. If it lands there, that's what we're doing. The Mummy, the Brendan Fraser trilogy. So, including the Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Not that short-lived show because I don't have access to it. It was on Tubi for a bit. Now it's not. We Are the Men in Black. The idea with that is to only discuss the trilogy and not the show and not the fourth one. And it's not for lack of quality. I haven't seen it, can't be sure. It's mostly because it doesn't really connect to the other three movies outside of existing in the same universe. And Men in Black 1 through 3 are a cohesive story. Like they are a cohesive trilogy that I feel I'd want to narrow my focus a bit. So that's what that is. Sing a Song. It's those two movies from Illumination, Sing and Sing 2. I have a soft spot for those. Um, the Dark Knight trilogy is, of course, the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. I was recommended I talk about Christopher Nolan, but if it lands on that, I figure like instead of going that far, let's get a little more specific with movies of him I love. So, growing up in the cul-de-sac, this is what replaced Intro to Super Sentai. I mentioned earlier that I have a lot to say about Ed, Edd n Eddy. Considering I just did an episode as an intro to the shows of Super Sentai, I'm going to start adding shows to the wheel. So it's not going to be all the time, and it's not, and it might not always be shows people have heard of, but this is always going to be show. If I have some, I know that I can have a dialogue about. If I know I have a lot to say about. Growing up in the cul-de-sac is about Ed, Edd n Eddy. It is my favorite show and how much I relate to it. If it lands on that, then the next podcast is going to be talking about that in detail and just why it's my favorite show, why it holds up better. I talked about it briefly in the new and recent films section. I held back because it's on the wheel, and if it lands on I decide, I pick. I pick any of the seven topics. I get a free ball. Usually, whenever I have a guest, the guest will decide. But since no one wanted to be here, it's all me, baby. So without further ado, let's spin the wheel. Oh shit. I got some work to do. I took a sip of water and peeked over. Fuck. All right. Fuck. Fuck. All right. Oh. Hmm. Fuck. All right. All right. So I'll explain my idea for this. Basically, the Alien versus Predator tier list is another tier list I'm going to do. I'm going to rank all of the Alien and Predator tier movies. I'm going to be a little picky and choosy, but I'm only going to be a little picky and choosy because the idea is I'm going like these two series are going to be going head to head. Me and I am going to be pushing for guests this time. I want at least two other people here, and I'm gonna try to get. I have a few ideas. If you feel free, but basically, we're going to rank all of the Alien and Predator movies, and I'm going to keep a tally on how we rank each one, and then each series is going to get like points based on like where the each individual movies fall in the ranking, and then I'm going to do an average out about like the whole series, and we're going to find out which series has the better movies. Now, it'll be noted then, and I'm going to tell you now, Alien versus Predator and Alien versus Predator Requiem count for both. They will appear on the tier list. They will account equally for both. So they don't sway the decision either way. Like, that's the only fair way to do this. Both movies have their own collection of movies to go through. I mean, I've only seen the one Danny Trejo. Oh, I recommend them all. Most of them. But I'm going to rewatch a bunch of the Predator movies. I have an idea of how it's going to go, and I'm not going to do any spoilers, but that's going to be something to prepare for. And given this channel's history, it's probably going to be a 2 to 3 hour episode at least. Uh, but we'll get there. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Oh boy. Yeah. Thank you all for stopping by. Uh, you don't have to watch them, Fernie. If you want to wait till we tell you how good they are, because whenever we do the tier list, it's what our opinions are objective fact, as we all know. So if you want to wait to see the ones that we recommend, like the last time, like there there is obviously some from both I recommend. I'm not going to do it here because I don't want to share my biases. Outs- Actually, you know what? No, there's one. Alien versus Predator. Watch that one because it's counting for both equally. Alien versus Predator is good. Alien versus Predator Requiem, they're counting for both. So both are going to get that positive and negative mark on them. So yeah. Yeah, then just watch whichever ones you want. Yeah, thank you all for watching. I will see y'all next time. Yeah.